Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia here on LaSalle TV. I'm your host Josh Abrams, and on today's show we're going to discuss the Phillies' slow start to the season, and then later on we're going to discuss the Flyers' playoff push as they try and secure one of the final spots in the NHL playoffs. All that and more after this intro.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
And welcome back from the introduction, and like every week, I have a great panel on hand today to talk some Philly sports. To my left is Kevin Cook, and to his left is Tegan Lamont. Guys, let's get right into it. It has been definitely a dismal start to the season. We're 1-4 right now. We are currently playing the Marlins right now, who are on a down year, kind of a little bit worse than us, hopefully, but we're hoping to come out of here with a win, maybe get a series sweep for once. How are you guys feeling after the first 5 games?
Well, I mean, Miami's playing better than we are. I think they're 2-4, so you can't really. I do think that we're going to start turning it around here. Coming home, I think that's going to be a positive thing for this team, you know. And I mean, to be honest, you can't get much worse. 1-4, as you saw, a 183 average. The team hasn't been playing well. Kapler's made some questionable decisions, to say the least. So, as far as I do think that they're going to turn it around here coming up, and I think that it's just going to be like getting the playing time that is going to do that for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the team itself, like you said, the production hasn't been great, but they've been good at bats from guys, and that's kind of what you look for 5 games into the season, especially with a young team and a new manager. I think you got to relax a little bit with it. I don't think that we can be saying, oh, the sky's falling right now. We're 5 games into a 162-game season.
Yeah, and to go along with that, I mean, the fact that, like you just said, it's 162 games. There's still a ton left. You know, there's a lot of places that this team can go. And, I mean, we're going to go right now, we're actually kind of banged up. So, I mean, our 2 best relievers with Tommy Hunter and Pat Neshek aren't available to pitch right now. And with a guy that likes to change the pitchers as much as he does so far this season, that's a big loss, not having your 2 most reliable arms out of the bullpen to come in for you.
Yeah, and Kapler definitely got things rolling with his questionable calls in the first game of the year when he pulled Aaron Nola after 68 pitches. Do I understand him wanting to be cautious with arguably their best pitcher right now, considering that Arrieta hasn't pitched yet? Yes, I understand that. But, you know, the fact that he's done that, you know, before today's game, he did get booed by Phillies fans. Yeah. Any reactions on that?
Yeah,
I know you want to sound off.
I'm not a big fan of the pulling a starter. I know that's the new wave in baseball, is get to the bullpen and let the bullpen work. When you're pulling your best pitcher and going to Hobie Milner, I'm not a huge fan of that. It's different if the lefty out of the bullpen is Andrew Miller. It's different if you're going to lock it down.
And what I was going to say was when he brought in Hobie Milner, usually that's a strategic thing where you go lefty versus lefty. Right. But Freddie Freeman, who was the next batter after Nola came out, is historically a good hitter against lefties.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
On top of that, too, he's also a good hitter against Aaron Nola. And those are the numbers, and he hasn't hit well against Milner. And like you said, the lefty versus lefty, that's also another reason why they could have done it. There's a handful of reasons why you say, oh, that move makes sense. But the fact of the matter is that you had a 5-run lead with your best pitcher on the mound, the guy who you chose to go with for opening day, and only 1 runner on 68 pitches. He just got the player before out.
Right.
And I can understand if Freeman smacks a double, it's a 1-run, you know, that 1 run scores, and now you're looking, you know, you're in this. Worst case scenario is you're in the same situation. Right. 2 runs have crossed the plate, and your best pitcher is still on the mound.
Right. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That one was questionable, and there's going to be, I mean, there's a learning curve when you're. I mean, he's only managed 5 games in the MLB. So
Right, yeah, that's the one thing everyone's got to remember is that he's a rookie manager, just like some of his rotation players, some of his starters are rookies too. But someone who has been a pretty bright spot for us so far, someone who we've been looking forward to having a breakout season is Aaron Nola. He was clearly our #1 starter last year, and with the addition of Jake Arrieta, I think he'll have a very good complement with that 1-2 punch there. But the fact that the Phillies are playing home now, guys, I feel like playing at home is something they needed to do. I feel like the last couple of years they've been opening up their games on the road, which is very difficult with the past teams we've had, but with as young of a team this year, opening up on the road has to be really difficult.
Yeah, I think you always want to get back to your home ballpark and get that fan excitement behind you. And honestly, when you have a manager or a team that makes the mistakes that they've made, it takes a little bit out of that home opener. I don't think that home opener today is as crazy as it would have been if they had been 3-2, or if they had been 4-1. Struggling a little bit on the road to start the season takes away a little bit from that home opener. So it definitely would have been nice to start the year here, let Nola get on the bump today instead of Pivetta.
Right.
There's something that comes out of it when you're not letting your best guys go at home to start the season.
yeah, and I mean, like Tegan was saying, if the season were to have started at home, I think that it would have gone a lot different. I mean, Kapler got booed as he walked out onto the field, so clearly there's already some dislike among the fans of Gabe Kapler, and I mean that's to be expected when you're in a city now of a couple of teams that have won championships, and the Sixers are making a push. The Flyers are going to make the playoffs, it looks like. So the fans are kind of expecting that the Phillies fall in line with the success that the other teams are experiencing.
Yeah, maybe perhaps a little bit too much optimism for a team this young. And speaking of young players, let's talk about our core 4. That's identified as Rhys Hoskins, J.P. Crawford, Nick Williams, and Jorge Alfaro.
This is who we expected to be the core of the team last year at the end of the season. And as you can see, they're really not playing all that well outside of Hoskins, obviously. And you know what? Since we're talking about him, I'm happy that he's playing that well because of the fact that a lot of people might have been concerned if whether or not he was just, like lightning in a bottle.
Like a fluke or something.
Exactly, last season. So the fact that he's producing is good to see.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at guys like Alfaro and Williams, I know Alfaro's only had 8 at-bats for the season. I mean, he's 1 for 8 with 7 strikeouts, so it's not good, but he only has 8 at-bats still. I mean, we got to let the guy play baseball, and it's he's still a rookie. He's not a guy that has any experience at the big league level. He's got to fall into a situation with some consistency, and that's kind of where I'm not understanding another thing with Kapler is starting Knapp on opening day. You're not defining a role for Alfaro.
And I mean, with that being said, you're not playing Odubel Herrera, the guy that, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Odubel, he's been your best player over the last couple of seasons, and he's not starting for you on opening day.
Yeah, it's little things like that are a question mark for me. Is why are certain decisions being made on certain days? Just let the guys play. Put them in a spot where they know where they're going to be. And I know the Kingery thing is going to be a little different. You're going to plug and play him. But just give guys days off when you plug and play him and let guys play baseball.
And like you're saying, I understand that there is going to be issues with this team because of the fact that they have a number of players that, you want to see what they bring to the table. We got 4 outfielders with Hoskins, Altair, Herrera, and Nick Williams. And you got 4 infielders for 3 spots with Kingery, Crawford, Franco, and Cesar. And you want to see which players are the best players. It's starting to look like some of those players are not, going to be around for much longer. But you need to, do your due diligence, and maybe by the time that mid-season rolls around, we'll see who those players are, and we'll start to see a little bit more consistency with this team.
Yeah, I agree.
And Tegan, you brought him up earlier. Scott Kingery, he was kind of questionable to make the opening day roster, and then all of a sudden, a couple days before we start the season, he signs this massive deal through, I think maybe 2024, somewhere like 7-8 years down the line. I think that's definitely a sign that he is going to be our future second baseman. And there are a couple analysts out there who have compared him to Chase Utley. Talk about his debut and what do you guys think he's going to bring to the table this season as compared to the upcoming years?
You'll take it.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's going to be our second baseman for the future. I think that he's going to end up being a starter for us, though. I mean, I think he's starting in right field today. He started at second. I believe he played shortstop. He was at third for some time. So, I mean, this guy, he's going to bounce around, and depending on who else is playing well, I think he's going to fall in, because he has the talent to play multiple positions. He's going to fall into where it's probably most needed, where he's gonna fill the hole in the field, basically just to keep his bat in the lineup.
Yeah, I think last time I was on, I made the player comparison between J.P. Crawford now and Brandon Crawford is what I think he will grow into as a player. I think that Kingery is going to be a little bit of a mix of like a Ben Zobrist and Dustin Pedroia.
Oh, okay.
Have a bigger bat than Zobrist has, but have that versatility. I think that over time, you'll see him develop into an all-star caliber player that you can plug and play at third, second, outfield, and just let him go play baseball every day and be a rotation guy, but be in the lineup on a relatively consistent basis.
The way that I think he's going to end up getting his way into the lineup this year is going to be he's just going to flat out outperform Franco, and he's going to earn that third baseman's job. And I think Cesar and Crawford are going to end up being the second and short stop for the team. But like I was saying earlier, you're gonna have to give everybody their shot and see which lineup's clicking, and then when things start to turn around, then it'll be a more consistent lineup from them, I believe.
Yeah, no, so definitely we're going to see something from Scott Kingery very soon. There's no issue with that. But probably the biggest issue so far with the Phillies has definitely been their bullpen. An aspect of the game that Gabe Kapler thought was probably one of their biggest strengths, and so far they just have not shown. They've been looking like they were last year, basically in midseason form already. Talk about the struggles of the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, like Kevin said earlier, you're missing your best two bullpen arms, so I mean that takes away something from the team. But when you got guys like Adam Morgan and Hobie Milner, who we thought were going to be solid lefties out of the bullpen, coming in and really getting rocked around pretty well. It's not the greatest, and we're blowing saves too. So
yeah,
we need something to hold down the bullpen, both in the long relief appearances, like that Velasquez start, where you got rocked around a little bit in the early goings, and we had to bring in guys that can eat some innings. And we also need the short game help to come in and get 3 outs and save a ball game.
And it's not even just that. I mean, the matter of the fact is if you're going to take people out of the game early like we did with Aaron Nola, you're going to need people to fill in, and we don't have that right now with the two arms, Hunter and Nishak out.
Right. So definitely some growing pains, struggles that we're going to have to figure out later on as the season comes along. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Flyers.
Hey, I'm Eddie Dunn, host of LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. Do you know that LaSalle TV is an entirely student-run organization? Probably, right? Do you also know that I happen to know all of the words to Eminem's Rap God? It's crazy, right? It's like 6 minutes. I'm not going to do it here, but just trust me that I know the words.
And welcome back from the commercial break. We have a new panelist on desk today to talk some Flyers. Emily Desmond is all the way down at the table. All right, guys, let's get right into it. The Flyers are definitely not playing their best hockey right now. They have struggled to close out games, and judging off of the last game against the Islanders, they are struggling to come back from games and then keep that same energy as they gave up the game-winning goal, or the go-ahead goal with about 6 minutes left. We have 2 games remaining on the schedule. How do you guys feel right now?
They're going to make the playoffs. It looks like if you win one, you're going to get in. So I guess in a way that, it's nice that they're going to make the playoffs. However, with the way that they're playing, it's not really all that great. They need to pick it up on a couple of different facets of their game. Their penalty kill is not performing that well for them. Their power play, though, has been looking up, and that's kind of what they need to continue to do as long as they're scoring goals. We'll see with getting Elliott back tonight. They'll have a shot to play better in the playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they're going to make it. They have to get one more win. Panthers need to lose tonight to clinch tonight, but how deep they go, that's to be determined.
Yeah, I think if they're only a couple of points behind whoever's in 7th. So if we can jump them, and then maybe we'll get a better matchup. Because right now we'd be playing Boston. Boston's basically been on fire since December. I don't even know. They've been crushing it. So
Yeah, I don't think that it's a long-term playoff push, but like everyone always says, you gotta make it to have any shot at making a run.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
get there first, then worry about it.
Yeah, so looking at the remaining schedule, guys, we don't necessarily have the toughest games coming up. No more playoff opponents, no more scary teams to worry about facing. But we do need to notch a win tonight against the Hurricanes. And we are home tonight, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Both the games are home.
So this is more than a great opportunity for us to finish the season strong. What are you guys looking for in terms of coming out with as much energy as possible to come out with wins?
Are you talking for
these next coming games if we want to secure a playoff spot?
Well, I think that we're going to get a lot better goaltending in net. It's been rough since we lost Neuwirth the first time around. Then he came back, got hurt again. We were back to Mrazek, back to the drawing board. But so I think goaltending is going to be good. We've been seeing a lot of good play from a number of players. Ivan Provorov's led us in time on ice for the last couple of games, and he's getting, I believe, 23 minutes per, and he's in the plus. Ghost has been playing extremely well. He's in top 50 in points for the NHL, and since in the last couple of weeks. So we're getting solid play from a number of different places. The captain Claude's also playing well. So as long as the big guys that we need to play well are continuing that, then we're going to be fine. It's just we're going to have to get lucky in a couple of other areas.
Yeah, I think one thing for sure is you want to win this game against the Hurricanes tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go into a rivalry game against the Rangers needing to win to get in the playoffs, because that's just gives the Rangers.
Need to win the last game of the season against the Rangers? When has that happened before?
Yeah. And that just gives the Rangers, who are not a good team, something to play for, a little extra than just winning. Trying to keep the Flyers out of the playoffs. It's not a situation that you want to get in. So a big game from Elliott tonight would be really nice in his return back to playing full time.
Yeah, I think we just need to focus on what we need to do. We need to focus on us getting the win and not what the rest of the teams are doing. And for us to get the playoff spot, we just have to win.
Yeah, exactly. It's all going to start from how we do, and hopefully if Florida doesn't in fact lose tonight, we will secure a playoff spot. That would be really nice. But someone you mentioned earlier, Kevin, Claude Giroux, I think he's only maybe a couple assists away or so, or a couple goals away from getting 100 points on the season. Mm-hmm. He has just been truly remarkable, and it isn't just him either. As you can see, he's 3 points away from reaching 100 on the season. But there are other guys on the team like Voracek, and I think I'm blanking on the other guy, but we have 3 guys on our team that have 60-plus assists. We have, I think, 11 or 12 players on our team that have scored double-digit goals on the season. It's just been truly remarkable the amount of production we're getting on offense, yet we're still coming down to the last couple of games and struggling to clinch a playoff spot.
Yeah, well, just going back to what you were talking about, Claude, 97 points, that's no small feat. That's the most he's ever had, and it's the most since any Flyer, since I believe it was John LeClaire, if I'm not wrong. And he's third in the NHL behind only,
What, Stamkos maybe?
I think he was one.
Kucherov?
Kucherov's one, I think.
Right.
And then he's 1 point behind somebody else. And, he's right there with Malkin and, some of the other players that are best in the league. So he is really having a great season this year. It's just what's around him and what is for most of the issue is what's behind him in net is not as good as what some of these other players are playing with, and that's why we're struggling a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of a normal struggle for the Flyers. It seems like you can't really find a goaltender that can bail you out.
And when you do, they get hurt. Like we've had a couple of goaltenders who have had a hot hand, but they just keep getting hurt. So that's the struggle right now.
Right. Yeah, you get that offensive production. You just need somebody to get in the way of a puck every once in a while, and no one can do it.
And one player is not going to carry the team. He can do all he wants. He can score 200 points if he wants to, but he's not the only person that's going to win them the game.
And he had a terrific game. He can win you a game. And Claude Giroux almost won us a game the other day
against the Islanders.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean we came back. It was a tremendous roar, but down 4-1, like 16 minutes left in the third, and went on a power play. Next thing you know, it was 4-4. Claude Giroux just tied the game up. Right. But again, what happens? They gave up the lead. Not even it couldn't have been more than 90 seconds later.
Yeah.
And as if that goaltending play could just be a little bit stronger, just a little bit more consistent. If they can hold them to 3 goals per, this team could possibly make some noise. And one of the good things, I think that this team does play up to their competition.
Yeah, definitely.
So possibly, we played well against Boston. Possibly playing Boston would be a good thing for us. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, and that win against Boston the other day was huge. Giroux, right? Giroux's the one who scored the overtime goal. I don't necessarily want to blame everything on the goaltending, especially that Islanders game. The defense just looked terrible. I mean, that 5th goal that we gave up to the Islanders was a breakaway. There was nothing Mrazek could really do about it. It's, you can't really blame one facet of the game. You got to blame the whole team. But speaking of the goaltending, we're going to get Elliott back tonight. And how do you guys feel about that? Finally getting a consistent goaltender for us back.
Well, he's always been our #1 guy, so I think that's why they're giving him the start tonight. It's not easing him back, especially with the playoffs coming up. It's definitely put him right back in and hopefully just get back where you left off.
Right.
Yeah, and having a little bit of veteran leadership back in that is nice too. Not that Mrazek's not a veteran by those standards, but somebody that's been there and won a few games, won some playoff games. It's a good hand to have in the net.
And on top of that, you're putting him back in there might be a confidence boost to the rest of the team. The rest of the team might start to play better. They might feel a little bit more laxed, and that might make them play a little bit better because of the fact that they're like, all right, well, we got the goaltender who's been the best goaltender for us this season, so maybe we'll start to see a little bit play from them too.
Yeah. Now, in terms of finishing the season, making the playoffs, it's obviously something we want to have happen, but it's going to be a matter of where we finish in the standings. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, obviously we could surpass Columbus and reach that 6th seed, but is the wild card the final destination for the boys this year?
It's going to look that way. If we win both these remaining games, we could definitely jump them. I don't know who those teams play, but it'll be. I think that we're going to end up being 7th or 8th. Yeah.
Yeah, I think wherever we're going to fall, we don't have a matchup that favors us no matter what. There's not a good team up in that top 3.
Well, there's not even a team that's struggling right now.
Right.
We're that team.
Yeah,
So.
it doesn't look good no matter where you fall in those bottom 3. You got the Caps, you got the Lightning, and Boston.
Yeah.
Whichever team you play is kind of a buzzsaw, so you got to go in, get some confidence somehow, and try to pull a win out.
Yeah, 7th or 8th is my bet.
Yeah, so we're going to hope for 2 wins this week or these upcoming days for the Flyers. We're going to move on now to Fast 5, and Emily, I'm going to start with you. We haven't we haven't talked any Eagles on the show so far. Any thoughts on Donnie Jones coming back to the team?
Well, we saved $2 million, a little under in cap space when he retired. Now he's coming back, so now we have to do the hard work and cut him. So I think it's going to be doubtful that he comes back. I think we keep up the cap space and move on to better things.
Tegan, we're going to come to you. the Sixers, they're obviously still without Joel Embiid. Yep. How far do you think they can get without him in the playoffs?
I think that they could make a championship run, or to the championship, not winning. But I think that they'll lose in the first couple of rounds. That lack of experience still scares me.
All right, Kevin, we're going to come to you. Obviously, we just talked about the Flyers goaltending. They're going to have to sort that out for the playoffs. Which goaltender do you feel most comfortable with when we head to the playoffs?
I'm going to go with Elliott for the time being.
All right, Emily, we're going to come back to you. What player on the Flyers do you think is your X factor for succeeding in the playoffs?
I think it's a given. It's going to be Claude Giroux for me. I think he's the captain, he's the leader, he's had the most playoff experience, especially with the Flyers. So I think he's the one that's going to be the push for them.
All right, and Tegan, last but not least, we're going to come to you with a Phillies question. What Phillies player has been the biggest disappointment to you so far?
So I said in our Phillies opener, our Phillies start to the season show, that I thought J.P. Crawford might have a little bit of a breakout year. So far, he's not done much. He had that one nice play on the relay from Hoskins, hosed somebody against the Braves, but other than that, he hasn't really done much of anything. His bat hasn't been alive. It might be a confidence thing. I do like him in that moving the pitcher to the 8 spot, batting him 9th thing. I do like that. But I think that Crawford might need a little bit of a change of scenery in the lineup. Bat him in the 6 hole, bat him in the 7 hole. Give him a little bit of a different look with some more protection. Don't have the pitcher thrown right in front of him. I think that's probably what you're looking for out of JP. But he's probably my least, my most unimpressive so far this year.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us here at Sports Talk Philadelphia on LaSalle TV. We thank you so much for watching. You can catch us on social media, on YouTube, on LaSalle TV, on lasalle.edu. And you can also catch us on Twitter, where there will be an extra segment. We didn't talk Sixers today, so if you want to go check it out on Twitter or YouTube, you can find that later on, and we're going to wrap it all up, and we thank you for watching. I need to get better at my